I am young Homer, here to guide you into a new chapter of the rise and fall of Zeus. Tonight, we begin Series 9, Weaknesses, Pitfalls, and the Slow Decline of Zeus, with Episode 73, Zeus's Hubris, the fatal flaw of the king. In this tale we see Zeus, ruler of Olympus, as his power grows so vast that even he begins to believe he is untouchable. Driven by pride, he makes decisions with sweeping consequences, believing himself immune to the effects of fate and beyond the limits that bind others. This unchecked hubris, a fatal flaw of many rulers, plants the seeds of his eventual decline. For even gods are not immune to the consequences of pride, and Zeus's journey now takes a darker turn as the weight of his choices begins to build. As we enter this tale of power and pride, allow yourself to settle deeply into the comfort of your bed, feeling safe, grounded, and fully supported. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a slow, deep breath in, letting calm and quiet fill your chest, as steady as the roots of ancient mountains. As you exhale, release any lingering tension, allowing your body to grow heavy, sinking into rest and ease. This is your time to unwind, to let go, and to find peace. Now, focus on the gentle rhythm of your breath, each inhale and exhale as steady as the quiet strength of time passing. Take a slightly deeper breath in, letting it fill you completely, and hold it softly for a moment. Then, as you exhale, imagine any tightness dissolving, leaving only warmth and tranquility. One more time, breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, feel yourself sinking further, calm and serene. Now let's guide each part of the body to soften, inviting rest with every breath. Start with your forehead, allowing it to relax completely as you exhale. Move to your jaw, releasing any tension, letting it rest gently. Now, bring awareness to your shoulders. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, let them fall, as though setting down a weight that has been carried too long. Allow your arms and hands to grow heavy, resting peacefully by your sides. Notice the steady rise and fall in your chest and belly, inhaling as your belly rises, and on the exhale, releasing any last bits of tension, feeling light and free. Shift your focus to your hips and thighs, letting them sink deeper into the bed, fully supported and relaxed. And finally, bring attention to your calves, feet, and toes, allowing them to release completely, grounded and calm. Now, imagine yourself standing on a vast plateau beneath a storm-filled sky where thunder rumbles in the distance and the air is thick with power. In the distance you see Zeus, his gaze turned toward the heavens, his pride boundless as lightning flashes around him. Yet, in the silence, you sense the weight of his choices and the subtle tremors of consequence taking root. His belief in his own invincibility has blinded him to the quiet power of fate, a lesson even he may one day be forced to learn. With each breath, feel yourself surrounded by the calm and strength of this moment, as though you too understand the delicate balance between strength and humility. Inhale deeply, letting the calm and resolve of the scene fill you, and exhale, feeling grounded, steady, and fully at ease. With your body relaxed and your mind open, allow the story to carry you into this world of power, pride, and timeless lessons, where even the mightiest must heed the quiet wisdom of humility. Take one last deep breath in and let it out softly. Now, let us begin. At the peak of his reign, Zeus was a figure of ultimate authority. He held dominion over the skies, commanded respect among the gods, and received reverence from mortals. His thunderbolt was unmatched, his judgment swift, and his influence felt in every realm. Olympian feasts were held in his honor, where his laughter filled the halls of Mount Olympus, and his presence reassured both gods and mortals of the divine order he had established. To mortals, Zeus was invincible, the architect of fate, the guardian of justice. But behind this image of strength and wisdom lay a subtle but dangerous flaw: hubris. Zeus had come to believe that his power was unchallengeable, that his wisdom was absolute. He saw himself as the rightful ruler not just of Olympus, but of the cosmos itself, and he often dismissed the voices of those who dared to question his decisions. This hubris became a defining feature of Zeus's rule, shaping his relationships, his judgments, and his handling of both gods and mortals. His confidence often bordered on arrogance, blinding him to the consequences of his own actions and creating the foundation for the conflicts and mistakes that would follow. Unseen to Zeus, this arrogance began to alienate those around him, setting the stage for his gradual but inevitable fall. Zeus's confidence in his authority led him to overlook or dismiss warnings from those closest to him. He was surrounded by wise counselors, including Athena, goddess of wisdom, and Themis, goddess of justice, who often sought to temper his decisions with their insights. But as Zeus's hubris grew, he found it increasingly difficult to accept counsel from others, seeing their advice as unnecessary or even as challenges to his authority. The gods of Olympus began to notice his pride, his refusal to acknowledge alternative perspectives. Hera, his wife, frequently challenged him on matters of justice and fairness, but her advice was often met with impatience or outright dismissal. Hephaestus, the god of the forge, once warned Zeus about the consequences of unchecked ambition, but Zeus brushed off the warning, seeing it as the concerns of a lesser god. Mortals, too, sensed the growing divide between their lives and the gods. their prayers seeming to go unheard as Zeus focused more on maintaining his own power than on the needs of those who worshipped him. Oracles began to speak of a distant future where the gods' influence would wane, a time when mortals would question the very existence of Olympus. Yet Zeus dismissed these whispers as mere mortal fear-mongering, confident that his rule would endure indefinitely. With each warning ignored, Zeus's hubris grew, pushing him further down a path that distanced him from both allies and subjects. Zeus's need to assert his power extended beyond his relationships. It often drove him into unnecessary conflicts, sometimes with other powerful beings. One such instance was his fateful encounter with Atlas, the Titan condemned to hold up the sky for eternity. Though bound to his punishment, Atlas harbored no fondness for Zeus and held an immense strength that under different circumstances could have rivaled the Olympian king. Driven by a desire to demonstrate his superiority, Zeus once challenged Atlas to a feat of strength, knowing well that the Titan's position granted him physical might rivaled only by a few. Atlas, fueled by resentment, accepted the challenge. What followed was a struggle that shook the earth and reverberated through Olympus. Zeus's thunderbolts cracked the sky, while Atlas's sheer might pushed Zeus to his limits. Though Zeus ultimately prevailed, the battle left him weakened, forcing him to recognize the endurance and strength of the Titans. This unnecessary challenge served as a reminder that even the strongest gods had their limits. Zeus's confrontation with Atlas, though victorious, planted seeds of doubt among the gods, who saw their leader exhaust himself for pride rather than purpose. They began to question his motivations, wondering if his ambition and pride would one day lead to their own ruin. For Zeus, the battle was a victory, but for Olympus, it was a cautionary tale, a glimpse into the risks of unchecked arrogance. Zeus's hubris not only strained his relationships with gods and mortals, but also led to decisions that rippled through both realms, often with unintended consequences. One such decision was his handling of Prometheus, the Titan who had gifted fire to humanity. Viewing this act as a challenge to his authority, Zeus condemned Prometheus to eternal suffering, believing that his punishment would deter others from defying Olympus. However, Zeus underestimated the impact of Prometheus's punishment on both mortals and gods. Mortals viewed Prometheus as a hero, a figure who had sacrificed himself for their benefit, and they began to resent Zeus's harshness. The gods, too, saw in Prometheus's suffering a potential threat, a reminder that their loyalty to Zeus was not unconditional. Zeus's pride blinded him to the compassion his own children and allies felt toward Prometheus, leading to subtle but growing unrest on Olympus. The fallout from Prometheus's punishment weakened Zeus's reputation, especially among younger gods like Hermes and Apollo, who began to question the fairness of his rule. Mortals, emboldened by Prometheus's act, started to push back against divine authority, learning to rely on themselves rather than appease the gods. In his hubris, Zeus had failed to anticipate that punishing defiance would only inspire more of it, further eroding his influence over both realms. As Zeus's pride continued to grow, so did his isolation. Once surrounded by loyal allies and advisors, he now found himself increasingly alone, his throne high above Olympus more a symbol of distance than unity. Athena and Hera, his closest confidants, became wary of offering counsel, knowing that their advice would likely be ignored or dismissed. Even Hermes, the messenger of the gods, hesitated to share mortal concerns with Zeus, sensing that the king was no longer receptive to anything that did not directly reinforce his authority. This isolation was Zeus's greatest weakness, one he could not see or understand. Surrounded by silence, his decisions became more erratic, driven less by wisdom and more by the desire to reaffirm his superiority. The gods of Olympus, once united under his leadership, began to forge their own paths, making alliances that bypassed Zeus's influence, while mortals grew bolder in their independence, finding strength and guidance within their own communities. Zeus, believing his rule to be unquestioned, failed to see the distance forming between himself and those he ruled. His hubris had blinded him to the quiet rebellion of discontent, the gradual unraveling of loyalty and trust that had once bound Olympus together. In his pursuit of absolute power, Zeus had unwittingly created a kingdom built on fractured foundations, each crack a testament to the dangers of unchecked pride. In rare moments of reflection, Zeus would gaze out from Mount Olympus, feeling the weight of his own actions and the distance that had grown between him and the world. He remembered a time when his rule had brought harmony, when gods and mortals alike looked to him with genuine respect and admiration. Now, he felt a subtle, nagging awareness of his own vulnerability, a knowledge that his power, though great, was not without limits. As he looked upon the sky he commanded, Zeus recognized the irony in his hubris. The very pride that had driven him to greatness now threatened to isolate him, to leave him a king without subjects, a god without followers. Yet his pride remained, binding him to a path that he could not easily abandon. Admitting his weakness would mean admitting that he was fallible, a truth he was reluctant to face, even as it stared back at him from the quiet halls of Olympus. Zeus's moments of self-doubt were brief, yet profound, revealing a vulnerability that he could not shake. The realization that his greatest strength, his pride, was also his greatest weakness was a revelation that left him both humbled and defiant, a conflict that would continue to shape his reign in the years to come. For the first time, Zeus felt a flicker of uncertainty, a sense that perhaps his power was not as unassailable as he once believed. The tale of Zeus's hubris became a lasting lesson on Olympus, a cautionary tale of a king who allowed pride to cloud his judgment and distance him from those he ruled. The gods, once bound to him by loyalty and respect, began to question his leadership, their faith shaken by his arrogance. Mortals too found their reverence waning, turning instead to heroes and leaders among their own kind, figures who understood their struggles and fought beside them. Olympus, once a beacon of unity, was now a realm of silent dissent, each god feeling the effects of a ruler whose hubris had isolated him from the very kingdom he sought to protect. The age of Zeus's unquestioned rule was ending, a slow but certain decline, fueled by the very flaw he had never thought would betray him. In the rise of mortal independence, the rowing distance among gods, and the subtle cracks in Olympus's foundations, Zeus saw the beginning of a new era, a time when his influence, once unmatched, would begin to fade. Though he remained king, he could feel the balance of power shifting, a reminder that even the mightiest god could not stand against the forces of pride and time. The hubris of Zeus became a warning to future generations, a lesson on the dangers of pride, one that would haunt Olympus long after his reign. But Zeus's hubris was not the only force driving Olympus toward discord. Join us in the next episode as we explore the impact of Hera's wrath, a force born from betrayal and pride, and how it would transform Olympus into a realm divided by both loyalty and vengeance. Discover how marital conflict between Zeus and Hera would lead to cracks in the very foundation of the gods' rule. Until we meet again, may your path be filled with peace, strength, and a touch of magic. I'm young Homer, and I look forward to our next story together.